And we are live.
Hello.
Hello, Ann Nocenti. Wow.
Hi. I'm an American comic book writer, filmmaker, and I'm here to talk about my two comics back there with that I did with Burger Books with Karen Berger. Most recently, last week, The Seeds came out. So,
Yes. No, it was really cool.
And I love France. I've been to Paris. Where are you? Are you in Paris?
No, Paris is really expensive. It's like living.
You're
It's
outside
like.
Paris.
No, I live in You know the legend of King Arthur?
Yes, of course.
Merlin. Well, it's a region in Brittany called. It's a region in France called Brittany.
Yes, I know Brittany. Yeah.
Well, I live there. It's
Yeah.
a city called Rennes.
Well, for your French audience, the first time I went to Paris was on a tour for the X-Men with Chris Claremont, John Romita Jr., Dan Green, and we stayed at the Hotel Lutetia, which was some kind of a famous hotel in Paris because it had been occupied by the Germans during wartime. And yes. I loved how the French publishers treated us because they took us to like Paul Bocuse, I think his name was, the famous chef's restaurant in Lyon. Like they took us something to eat, wonderful place. And even the French publishers were they took us to the Crazy Horse. So they took us to like a strip club, and so it was like,
yes. It's a famous. It's a kind of a classy strip club.
Yes, and so it was like me, Chris Claremont, Dan Green, and John Romita Jr. And we were like in this strip place and going to eat great food.
It's in Paris called Pigalle.
Oh, I thought there Crazy Horse. So the horse.
And there's a lot of Moulin Rouge.
Yes, yeah,
it's a whole street when there's some venues when they organize concerts, big venues, and there's also kind of a strip club, sex shops. It's a special place.
And I just got an email here. I'm looking from David Aha, who says that The Seeds is going to be published in France with Futuropolis. Do you know that publisher?
Cool. Yeah. Well, there's so many publishers. Here in France, the comic book industry is huge. It's just it's not focused only on superheroes. They're well, they call it here bande dessinée. And
yeah, and this will be out in French, but I'm actually gonna email David Aha right now. How do you say? Mary, you can tell me the seeds in French. How do you say the seeds in French?
Les graines.
Les graines.
Yeah.
Les graines? I wonder how that'll translate. Anyway, so we're very excited that we're going to have the Seeds is going to come out in France because France has a special place in my heart. Most starting with that X-Men tour, and then my boyfriend at the time, Armand, like he surprised me by showing up at the steps of the Lutetia. It was very like romantic.
Wow.
And he followed me there, and then there's another French connection is that when we went. Not the movie French Connection, which is great. There was a fan of my Daredevil work who I maybe met in France when he was young.
I'm a fan too.
Oh, look at that! So he ended up. I got a call from Canal Plus one day, and I was writing screenplays at the time, and his name was Jean-François Richer, Do you know his work? Jean-Francois Richet. He did that movie M.A. Cracker, Your Neighborhood's Gonna Blow Up, and he went on to do like Assault at Precinct 13. You must know his work. Jean-Francois Richet. And
yeah, ring a bell.
Is saying his name wrong?
No. It's okay. It's just I don't know. It ring a bell, but I can.
It was a big. He ended up doing a big Hollywood movie called Assault on Precinct 13. I think it was with Ethan.
Okay, yes.
But back then, he invited me through Canal Plus to come live in Paris, and we wrote a screenplay together. That was kind of a it was like a very Tarantino influenced Marxist road trip. You know, it was a violent Marxist road trip, and so that was a wonderful thing to have happen. That I went to Paris, met a fan, a Daredevil fan, who then asked me to write a screenplay for him, and he did this famous movie. My Neighborhood's Gonna Blow Up, M.A.T. Cracker, that was banned by your cultural minister because it was sort of about the neighborhoods surrounding Paris getting restless and wanting to like smash cars. And
okay.
It happened in the 90s.
Yes.
When I was a screenwriter and he was just starting out. Anyway, that has nothing to do with the Seeds, but
no, but it's a very interesting story.
Yes, yeah, because the Seeds is coming out in France.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, here, like I told you, there's a big comic book culture, but they are more focused on, you know, like prestige size, you know.
Yeah.
And they have a lot, and the stories are really broad. You can find very complex sci-fi that you have to read like 5 times to understand the the plot.
What if you recommend to me something that's translated in English? What's your favorite French public? I know that David was influenced by this comic Turnout. Was that originally in French or no? Am I thinking of something else?
The Turnout?
Yeah,
maybe.
So what would you recommend I read that's your favorite French comic that's been translated into English?
Well, there are so many, but the essentials, well, he knows actually French, but he's very popular in French, is Jodorowsky and Moebius. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, no, I know those, yeah.
No, but there's a lot. I can, maybe later I can send you some links.
Yeah, do that.
Because, because
I can support my French compatriots, colleagues.
Yes.
I guess we need to talk about the Seeds, huh?
No, but one thing, because I like to, you know, try to, because every culture is different. And here in France, especially, they support a lot art in general. So even if you, for example, you have a project like the Seed, but you don't have a publisher, there's some way that you can ask money to the government to.
Oh, I see.
Put it yourself or make your own publish it. So no, this is really good. That is what there's so many, especially it's like with music too.
Well, we're very excited about the Seeds coming out, and so you can ask me anything. I guess.
Yeah, I would like to, if you can talk to my audience a little bit.
Okay. I would say that so in the 80s, I had a career at Marvel Comics. I was the writer of Daredevil, and I wrote a lot of some X-Men and all kinds of characters that I've forgotten at this point, I guess.
Longshot.
Longshot, yeah. How could I forget Longshot? Created a lot of characters, Typhoid Mary, Blackheart, ones that have gone into movies and TV shows. And with Longshot, Arthur Adams and I created Mojo and Spiral and Longshot, of course. And then I left the comic book industry, except for doing a few things, to become a journalist, and then become a filmmaker. I was a screenwriter for many years, and then I left that again to go teach filmmaking in Haiti. So I was made a lot of documentaries and fiction films with my students in Haiti, and then came back to comics. So my return to comics is Ruby Falls was the first book, this is its beautiful Italian edition. And not to be too much like a car salesman here hawking my wares, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to be like a car salesman hawking my wares. These are
No, but that's okay. It's a great work. So
yeah, they're like
you need to share it.
You know, I love them. I take them to bed with me at night. I hug them all the time. You know?
No, that's great. But can you tell us how you created that kind of story? That was a long time. You have these kind of ideas in your mind, or?
Well, yeah, I think that the wonderful thing about the arts, well, no matter what art you're talking about, is that you know your unconscious does a lot of your work for you. So especially if you're in like one of the more direct expressive arts like painting and music, where whoever you are is constantly feeding the thing you make. So the seeds was very much a product of things that I had been obsessed with, and because I'm kind of also a teacher, I like teaching. I would say if anybody out there that wants to make something, be it anything, any kind of art form that you want to work in, just, you know, don't be afraid of your own obsessions. Like, I became obsessed for the seeds. I had like a whole bunch of things that were bugging me in life. And one of them was my phone. Why when I lose my phone, do I feel like my world has fallen apart? Why am I in love with my phone and my computer? And as somebody who was raised pre-internet, there was a weird feeling when you went out into the world. No, you were untethered. No one could track you. No one could find you. You know, you were just free. And life had this kind of meandering thing where you would just get lost in life. And the phone keeps pulling you back. There's a moment in the seeds when Lola, to give you a baby summary of the plot, it's a love affair between an alien and a human. And when Lola has to cross into this zone where there is no tech, and her fingers still twitch because she's like still trying to text people even though she has no phone. And she has this moment when she says, I cut that tether. I don't feel the tug of the, I don't, but it still tugs me like I'm its dog, and I realize that we've become like, technology, we've become its dogs. We use yes. tech to back up our brain, to store our memories, to hold our photos. And so that was something that bothered me. And so I made up a place called Zone B, where if you decided to be a Luddite and get rid of your tech, you could go there and get rid of your tech. So that folded in with things that were happening in the world at the time, prejudice. So David Aha, and also I forgot, David Aha and I talked about all this stuff for a long time so that he could start thinking about his obsessions. Like there are things about Lola that are purely David and things that are me, and then somewhere in between, there's Lola. So, I mean, I can hold up pages and talk about pages. If you don't,
sure. I can do this.
Yeah. So you can pretty much look at any page in the seeds, and I can talk about how the David's obsessions and my obsessions kind of dovetailed to create this, and on very much the hexagrams.
Yes.
Like we decided to open the comic David decided that he wanted the hexagrams to be a visual motif throughout all 4 books. So when he started doing that, and he opened the comic with
Okay.
hexagons of the bees, and they almost became like a virus that went all the way through the comic.
So, but the representation of the bee and the hexagon is like, I don't know, like the loss of or independence, something like that. Like,
well, it's kind of about the hive mind. You know, it's the place
yes.
where the hive mind of that we've all gotten used to from all being on the internet has this weird resonance with the hive mind of nature. So there's a lot of elements in the seeds that are about like nature, like the ants. There's a line, you know, when you have a picnic and one ant shows up at the picnic and then suddenly all the ants are there eating your food.
Yes.
It's sort of like that we wanted there to be a subliminal undertone of making of just teasing the reader with something that nature is up to something. The bees are leaving. Where are they going? All the ants show up at a picnic. You know what? It's like, it's this sort of like sense that, you know, I took deep dives into reading about the hive mind in nature. Like, for instance, how mushrooms have these like fungi, mycelium that go, you know, that are massive underneath the earth, that are kind of like communicating in an animal intelligence kind of way. So you'll see those birds that mimic, but are they having their own thoughts, or are they mimicking things humans say? And it's kind of a way to say humans are killing the planet. Birds and cows and bees and ants are all noticing that the planet's like getting worse. What are they doing about it? You know, maybe they're doing something about it. I mean, especially mushrooms, fungi, they go in when there's like Chernobyl. When Chernobyl happened, all these mushrooms sprouted. It's sort of, especially fungi, they like conflict. They eat oil spills, you know. Fungi will go in and eat oil spills. So, you know, it's a conceit and it's not real, but we wanted people to understand that there was this intelligence in nature that might be aware of what humans were doing to the planet and doing things to fix it. So you have this this relationship in the comic. There's a relationship between a naturalist and a tech person. Let me see if I can find. Oh yeah, here's that wonderful panel where she says, I can still feel its tug, its pull on me. I'm still tethered to it. And then you can, that she's talking about her phone. But then you can also see how the beauty of David's
they're
and
beautiful.
You know, things like the tree, how the tree, you know, goes right into her hair, and like you can really study this comic artistically and see that every line is connected to another line, and it's all centered around the power panel in the middle and how that echoes with everything else on the page. So just for sheer richness of storytelling, art, you know, the craft of telling a story with words and pictures, this is just a brilliant example.
And how he in what way you work together? It's like you made the script, you give it to him and let it loose, or just
I do. Well, the first, so David and I did a Daredevil story together, and we always wanted to work with each other again. And so over the years, we were like, "Hey, how you doing?" But like literally, that was like 20 years ago or something.
Okay.
And then, I had just done a run for DC Comics. I had done Catwoman.
Catwoman.
Done like a year of Catwoman stories, and I did a couple other comics for them, Katana and Clarion, a Jack Kirby character. And I was kind of leaving comics again to go work in museums. I was working with a German company, SC Exhibitions, and we were doing a street art exhibition in Dresden, where we brought in all these street artists and had them take over an airport hangar. And
oh, that's great.
Place, like if you Google it, it's called Magic City in Dresden, and it's this fabulous museum show I was working on. And then David just texts, he just out of the blue, I heard from him, and he said, "What are you doing? What are you working on?" I was like, nothing, a street art museum. It's fun, but. And then he said, "Well, what do you have?" And I would send him ideas for comics I'd like to do. And I think there was a bunch of really wacky ideas. I don't even remember what they were, but he was like, nah. He was like, nah. And I was just like, okay, well, it's not going to work. And then I sent him this idea for Scoop, which was a piece of, it was a comic that was designed to look like an old tabloid magazine, because I was an editor for many years. I had a magazine, a film magazine called Scenario. And so I thought, well, I love magazine bullpens. I love working in the crazy atmosphere that is like, go get a story, go get a story. What about this one? And how do we make it sell? And, it's basically what's evolved into clickbait culture today.
Yes.
Started back pre-internet with like, how do we sell this? Let's, you go try and get some ads, try and get some advertising to pay for this. And I knew that world really well. And so I pitched that idea to David, and he liked that one better. But then the whole fake news scandal hit, and we realized that we didn't necessarily want to so strongly on just a journalism, and it wasn't even real journalism. Scoop was about like, sending reporters out to dig up stories about like Bigfoot and Sasquatch and aliens. Yes. And so we trashed that and got really depressed. I was like, okay, this isn't gonna happen. And then one day we just decided that one thing we still liked was the love story between the alien and the human, because it was so much about loving the other, and thought that was important today. And so then that's when wove in the farmer, because my grandfather was a farmer, and in Daredevil in the 80s, I had done all these factory farm stories about how maybe we shouldn't really be eating meat anymore. But they weren't really saying don't eat meat. They were saying, why are we being so cruel to the animals? That we're then
are you a vegetarian?
I try to be. I slip up a lot because I'm very because I'm not strict about anything. So if I'm in someone's home and they serve me a chicken, I will eat. So I don't like have any strict rules about that.
Yeah, I'm the same. Basically, when I cook for myself, it's mostly vegetarian. But yeah, especially when because actually I'm not French. When I moved here.
Oh, okay. Where are you?
Chile.
Chile. Oh, okay. I thought you had a kind of an interesting accent, but I didn't want to be rude and ask you.
No, it's okay. You can mug me.
I can talk to you all I want.
So when
so the story developed over David's obsessions, my obsessions. David loves Tarkovsky movies, and he was working up the visual palette for the Seeds, and he came up with the idea that we would have these 6 chapters, and he wanted to do the 9-panel grid. So I was working on the stories, which would be, nature, this kind of fight between nature and technology, a farmer, and whether or not he wanted to keep eating his animals that he loved, the love affair between the alien and the human. And in the middle of all that, this woman, Astra, who was, journalist trying to seek out truth in a post-truth time. So, so we just started kind of building the themes and the stories together, and that's the Seeds. So it's very much arranged so that you see it from many different points of view. You see the world from an ant eye view, a mushroom eye view, a pig's eye view, a bird's eye view, and all the characters. So you're seeing the world from all these different viewpoints in one comic. It's not the typical subjective point of view. It's not subjective. It's not objective. It's multiple points of view.
Well, that's great.
I was a big fan of that film Rashomon.
Yeah. To have different perspective at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about your other comic, Ruby?
Ruby Falls is, again, it's like I can't really talk about the Seeds or Ruby Falls without bringing up Karen Berger, because Karen Berger, as you know, is a legendary editor in the comic field who in the 80s started an imprint called Vertigo, and really allowed individual writers and artists to break out of the superhero action narrative and be Sandman, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, and Neil Gaiman's, and all these different points of view. That she was brilliant at bringing out someone's voice and letting them find their voice. 30 years before it became common to talk about bringing out people's voices, she was very totally ahead of her time in that way. And so I was telling Karen a story about something that had to do with 3 women, a grandmother, a mother, and the granddaughter, and a murder mystery that was locked in the mind of the grandmother who had dementia. And Karen just really encouraged me to tell this story. And she said, you know what, I think I need a female artist for this. And so here's some of Flavia's covers for, so you can see she went with this jigsaw, because it's a murder mystery, and it's about time and memory, but it's also about an old prohibition town where a woman may have been murdered. She may have been gotten rid of by the of the town. And Flavia has this, her every line is got love in it. It's quite astounding. She draws with such tenderness, and she embraced the characters so profoundly. I knew just from the very first drawings she sent me how the characters inhabited their bodies, how they stood, how they gestured, and she came up with a repertoire of gestures for each character, and literally even where their weight was in their body and where they were centered. And she just she's a beautiful storyteller. So Karen, again, with both the Seeds and Ruby Falls, Karen does a lot of work on the scripts. You send her, a script, and she sends you back a lot of notes, and she's always right. She's always right. Like when she says something isn't working or something should be made deeper or trimmed or whatever, you listen, because she has this sort of sure-footed, unerring sense of story. So Berger Books has been sort of like Vertigo again, all over again, where she's getting people to find their voice. And I think she won 2 Eisners last year.
Wow.
For Invisible Kingdom And oh, she's gonna kill me. I'm blanking on the name of it. You should go to the Darkhorse website and go to Burger Books and check out her books.
So for you, is one of the best editors that you have
Oh
worked with?
yeah, oh yeah, but they've all been great. I mean, people.
Really?
Yeah. Not all of them. Okay, not all of them. But people talk about the writer, the artist, the writer, the artist. You know, it's the editor is like the third part of that creative team, and then of course, especially with Ruby Falls, the colorist. You know, the Lee Lowry. I probably said his name wrong. Lee Lowridge did a spectacular coloring job on, and the letterer, of course. I mean, look at this, just this scene alone. It's, you know, the like the coloring, it changes. It constantly changes with depending on the mood and the moment, and especially, you know, I love the relationship between Lana and her girlfriend Blair. The pages are just so tender.
Yeah.
This is, you know, this is them having a fight, and so
oh, great.
yeah, so
it looked beautiful.
Going all the way back to the beginning, having Denny O'Neil, who was a big influence on me putting the real world in a superhero narrative, very much like taking a piece of journalism and putting it into a superhero narrative. Louise Simonson, who was Louise Jones back then, who really taught me how to orchestrate all the operatic epics that Chris Claremont was doing in the X-Men, because, you know, the X-Men was a team book with multiple characters, plus we had the New Mutants, and we had it was the beginning of like the crossovers and shared universe events and limited series.
To became very complicated.
Yeah, it became very complicated. So my desktop, I had all these notebooks that were like, you know, this is pre-internet, so it was all paper, you know, like, okay, Wolverine is going to be guest starring in this book over here, but he's in this book, he's in space, and in this one, he's in hell, and, you know, and then oh wait, and I remember this one moment. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like. Chris and I like realized that we had sent Ileana to hell and forgot about her and left her there or something, you know, and we had to like, because we had this, like, Chris was writing these epics. They were soap opera,
sure,
but they were also operatic, and they were very complicated, and he was writing multiple books. And so Louise Simonson basically taught me how to just sort of let Chris talk. Like, let him just create, take notes, you know, nudge him that way and that way, you know, and then try and hold the whole thing together. And so she trained me how to work on a complicated, multiple character, multiple storyline universe with the X-Men. Sure. And then with Bill Sienkiewicz doing the New Mutants and all those little, we did Kitty Pryde and Wolverine, and we had all like other X books. I wrote a couple of them. I wrote Nightcrawler and Beauty and the Beast, which was like a weird book where, you know, Beauty and the Beast was this weird thing where one day someone said, we don't have enough women reading comics. Let's do a romance comic. And Jim Shooter came in my office and he said, you know, how about we team up the Dazzler with the Beast? And I was like, well, one is like a disco queen and the other is kind of an intellectual. I don't really see them hooking up, but we did it, you know. We did this romance. It was like a Dr. Doom epic, but it was about the romance, the failed romance between Dazzler and the Beast. And that was basically an attempt to bring female readers into comics, you know. But really, female readers, I think they came they entered comics through powerhouses like Kelly Sue DeConnick with her work with Captain Marvel, and with Willow Wilson and her work with Ms. Marvel. I mean, back in the day, we weren't that proactive about getting female readers into comics.
Yes.
Trina Robbins was trying to get more girls to read comics, but then it was really Kelly Sue and G. Willow Wilson and Sana Amarat at Marvel Comics when they were finally writing stories that women wanted to read, and really putting out like a huge call for women to make comics and read comics. And that's I'm very impressed by the work of those women at Marvel getting that.
Yeah, no, that's great. But it's just the example that you talk before. There was at that time there was kind of that cliche that you have to create a romantic story to appeal women.
But it's interesting because the narratives women want to read. I was in some. I mean, we've thought about it. I've thought about it. Like, do women really want violent stories? Do they really want the action narrative even? And, well, the wonderful thing about Kelly Sue DeConnick and Sana Amarat and G. Willow Wilson, they found that place where
the balance.
Yeah, where yes, women want an empowered female. And so they found that with Kelly Sue's work. And with Ms. Marvel, what was astounding was that, she was a Pakistani Muslim, Pakistani American Muslim. And G. Willow Wilson just integrated the religious concepts into her life. Like, I remember there's this great issue where she meets Lockjaw, and and according to her traditions, you're not allowed to have a dog in the house. And it was a religious thing. Not that I can remember the actual phrases, but she falls in love with Lockjaw. She wants Lockjaw, who, for people don't know, is a dog, an inhuman. She wants him to come home with her, but she has to hide him. And so it opened up a discussion in the family about their traditions and their religion, and the fact that, she had these, I don't remember how long she hid her superpowers, but it was a beautiful way to bring in a deeper familial religious narrative into a superhero comic and it was full of action. It's her with her Embiggen Fist, and her Embiggen Fist is a powerful. It's an empowering thing to have a fist that gets big.
Yes. No, for me it's great because it teach kind of, especially the American people, what Muslims are, because there's a lot of cliches. They are right way attached with terrorism, or because people don't understand how they the religion works. Here in France, there are many, but I don't know. We are a like country, but we have several religions, and there are a lot of Muslims. So people know a little bit how they work, the Ramadan, all the kind of.
No, and I'm not. I live in New York City, in Manhattan, so of course, like, every day of my life is a multicultural experience with everybody. I have friends from all over the world, and
no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking, about.
I know, but the United States, it's an urban versus country thing. Most cities have a multicultural sense, and most suburbs and country, they don't have as much of a multicultural sensibility. that with my documentary partner, Wendy Johnson, we made 2 films in Baluchistan, which is a tribal province of Pakistan. And so we went on a falcon hunt with men that practice purdah normally. Normally, women, and their wives are covered, and the 2 of the men on the trip had been friends for 30 years and never seen each other's wife because of purdah. And so and to have 2 Western women on a falcon hunt in the desert. I mean, we were sleeping in the desert at night, and I don't know if you know what a falcon hunt is, but you drive around with falcons and use them to hunt the hubara, which is like a sort of like a roadrunner from. And so every night we'd sit around the campfire and talk about the difference between, men and women in America and men and women in Pakistan and Muslim culture. And one night we were even invited to hang with the women. It was kind of it was like a party where the women took their burqas and hijabs and veils off, and we were able to like just hang as women, and they were able to they told us what it was like to be veiled, and and I was wearing a veil when I was there out of respect, and so it was like this fascinating conversations that I had, and I'm still friends with the people I met making those films. And it's just the world, I don't know, the world needs more of that for sure.
Yeah, more cultural exchange.
Yeah. Anyway, because that's why G. Willow Wilson's comic, it was really powerful to me to read that. Thought that was a great comic.
Yeah, no, for sure. And can I ask you a little bit, how was your beginning when you started the comic book industry? Because it was clear it was only ruled by men.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It was. It's weird. It's. I talk with Louise Simonson, and Karen Berger about this. But I've talked with both of them about this. How we didn't really feel like there was much sexism back then. Everybody was very encouraging to have women in comics, at least at the editorial staff at Marvel, and everybody was like, Archie Goodwin, Mark Grunwald, Larry Hama, Al Milgram. Everybody was very much like, oh boy, a girl, let's teach her everything. And so I felt very blessed to have that kind of mentoring, embracing atmosphere. And so I honestly don't remember it being sexist at all, other than that the content was very masculine. And even, Wheezy once said to me that she very specifically didn't write female characters because she didn't want to be typecast as the female characters. And, I think that, writing Daredevil, I wrote some Wolverine stories, Punisher stories, Captain America. I wrote a lot of the Ghost Rider. I wrote a lot of the tough male characters, and I had fun with it. And I feel like I even embraced the machismo narrative myself. That's why I'm so impressed by Kelly Sue McConaughey and Sana Amaret, because they figured out a way to weave the two, I don't want to call them gendered narratives because we don't really want to live in a gendered world, but I don't think I was trying to play like a boy back then. I was trying to
it's just a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
So but to find a different narrative, you have to have I don't know, maybe for them was the right time, the right set of mind, the right ingredients. There's a lot of factors that can influence, because I know if maybe you will have at that time maybe some some context to create something kind of like that, you were gonna do it. But at the same time, I think your approach to female characters when you were writing, for example, Daredevil, was really special.
Yeah, with Typhoid Mary, I think that Typhoid Mary was designed to dismantle Daredevil. She was specifically designed, on every level, including taking advantage of his blindness.
Yes.
I mean, we even did, Johnny Romita Jr. and I even did this thing where we were like, well, he has all these super senses, so we're going to have something about Typhoid Mary that she actually changes the way she smells, and her heartbeat changes. That's right. We changed her heartbeat so that we could really take advantage of this blind guy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That he did not know that Mary, sweet Mary, was also, typhoid. And so that was kind of a shattered female. It was kind of a deconstructed female, almost like here's all the stereotypes of the male viewpoint of females, that they're either, Madonnas or whores, they're either tough or they're not, so we kind of like shook that up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Specifically designed to take down Daredevil, because, every Daredevil writer, going back to, I think, before me, Roger McKenzie, and then was, the writer before me, and then Frank Miller, of course, sort of the fun of Daredevil is that you get to torture him and dismantle him. So I took my turn destroying the poor guy.
Yes. No, but he's a very tortured character.
He's tortured, yeah. Well, he's a lapsed Catholic. I'm a lapsed Catholic. Weezy Simonson used to say that lapsed Catholics make great comic book writers. We're so like deeply tortured from all that catechism and religious training we had when we were little.
Oh, that's awesome. So, what was your breakthrough when you entered to the comic book industry? What was your first?
I think I would have to say that Arthur Adams, because Arthur Adams, he came out of the box with like this, this phenomenal style, this, the detail that we, had seen in people like Barry Windsor Smith and Mike Kaluta and Bernie Wrightson. We had these kind of, whether you want to call them pre-Raphaelite or just, artists that were really focused on creating a whole detailed world. And before that, you had, going all the way back to like Winsor McKay or someone. And so I think really it was Arthur Adams, the fact that I don't think we would have been able to create Longshot, Mojo, and Spiral and all those characters without his phenomenal style. And I don't think it would have gotten the traction it got without Arthur's talent,
Sure.
Because it was an insane comic. It was a crazy, crazy comic. And it got, so that was the first thing, was through Arthur. And then I think I was on Daredevil for like 4 years or something, getting to do that thing where you make mistakes, then you finally find your rhythm, and you find, probably with Johnny Romita Jr. And I always, after that with Lee Weeks, Lee Weeks is an extraordinary artist who worked with Lee for a long time. And so was able to sort of find a rhythm on a book over a period of years that I think finally is when I,
What for you was the most challenging stuff especially when you make a run like 4 years? It's a long time.
Well, because you have to, superheroes aren't really supposed to change that much, but you have to have a sense of change all the time. So you're like treading water. You're swimming constantly, but you're not going anywhere. You're having these arcs, these arcs of, stories, but you can't you can't really you can't.
It can get frustrated.
Yeah,
Frustrating, I think.
well, so you have to keep a sense of constant change without changing. Now, these days, it's a lot different because they can say, well, let's make Spider-Man black for a while, let's make
Yes.
Thor a female. And I love that because you can really see what is the icon of the Norse myth of Thor as a female. How does Spider-Man interact with the urban dynamic of of New York City as a I think he's Hispanic. I think he's like
It's Latino.
he's Latino, but he's Latino and black, right? Miles Morales.
Yeah.
So how does he react with the city of New York without the white privilege? Even though he's Spider-Man with the mask on. And so you get into all this rich territory, especially because of the mask. That you can hide your race and your gender behind a mask. And so I think the territory that Marvel and DC are getting into right now with allowing the diversity is only strengthening the icon as is. But I don't think back in the 80s, if I had gone in and said, hey, let's get rid of Matt Murdock and have him come back as a black man, I think they would have said, huh?
Yeah. I think it's like it's like a box, and it's getting bigger and bigger with the time.
And it's sad when I see the chatter online where people are like, oh, you social justice warriors, diversity.
No, but it's the same. It's a history of humanity. Every time humanity moves forward, there are some people that cannot like how it was before.
Yeah, and the people that don't like it, I think they're missing out on the fun because it's fun. It's fun to think about what if you switch gender, if you switch color. It's an amazingly humanitarian game that we're all exploring, and I just feel bad when fans are like, oh, I wish they would stick with the canon white boys, and I'm like,
but for me,
you're missing out.
It's kind of maybe a psychological explanation. It's like they attach the childhood, their identity with a specific way of showing a character. So when that changes, they freak out. And I'm a big comic book fan, but I love the old stuff, but I love also the new stuff, and it didn't freak me out that Thor is a woman or or Spider-Man is black. For me, it's great.
I must admit, not to sound like too much of an old lady, but I was making comics before a lot of these guys were born, and and so if it doesn't bug us who have been in the industry for a long time, why should it bug you? And it gets back to that thing I was talking about how you always have to give these iconic characters a sense of change without changing them. So for creators, it's a lot of fun to be able to change them. And so just join the party, join the party and have fun. Don't like sit off in a corner saying,
Yeah, and still, if you don't like the new stuff, you have the old stuff to read, so everyone is happy.
Everybody's happy. You have like 100 years of comics you can read. So if you like,
yes.
And it's not like these characters aren't always going to snap back. I think Black Panther is nobody. I don't know. Will anyone do a white Black Panther? It's like I could see a female Black Panther, but I don't know about suddenly a white Black Panther. But so the characters are always going to be what they were created as at some point. They're going to go back to canon.
Yeah, for sure. But it's fun. It's fun when the artists, because you guys are artists, writers, can have a bigger box to play. Because I think well, I'm not a writer or I don't write comics. I'm a musician, but it's the same. If you get stuck in a box, there's one point in time that you will feel kind of frustrated, or you will kind of you as an artist you want to expand, you want to discover new things and
Hmm.
try new things. So I
What
don't
kind
know.
of music do you play?
Well, it's electro. I do several styles, but mostly it's electronic music
Mm-hmm.
mixed with elements of rock.
Hmm.
But I do also music for films, or I do a lot of stuff because I
I always wish that comics had soundtracks, like, you know,
yeah,
and
that's an idea.
yeah,
That's an idea that I have, and I would love to pitch to DC or Marvel someday, because it will be great if you can have a soundtrack. You know, you play it in I don't know, in a Spotify or
well,
whatever you use. You
it,
play it and you read the comics.
yeah.
It will be
Well,
awesome.
over the years, we have, of course, had conversations about why we don't do that, and down to like trying to plan things, like, say for the seeds, like how long does it take to read a page, and then you turn the page, and how long does it, and could you queue up a Spotify? And I know that I had certain songs that meant something to me making the seeds, and David had his own soundtrack in his head. And I
Sure.
remember going back to the X-Men days, Chris Claremont used to listen to like Wagner and a lot of opera while writing the X-Men, and it would be so much fun. And we even talked about, over the years, could we, back when we were like pre-internet and pre-Spotify, it goes all the way back to then, and could we put like a floppy in the comic that that people could like take a little CD out, DVD CD out, and play it. And
Yes.
one time, someone took a comic I wrote, a Wolverine story I wrote, and wrote a soundtrack for it. And then you bought the CD with my little Wolverine story, and a CD that you would play while you read the comic.
Wow,
And,
that's great.
yeah, they did it. They've done it a few times, and it gets down to like production. And I think you could do it now. And I think even some artists, I've heard of some artists that come up with a Spotify list to play. But it becomes like cost, and it would be easy now because it would just be a link in the comic.
Yes,
So I'm
and
sure, David has a Spotify list that he would like you to play.
yeah, for example, you can organize a contest. You know, there are
Yeah.
many musicians and producers all around the world, especially now that everyone is in lockdown or
Oh,
in the,
that would be amazing. That's a great idea. I mean, I have so many things that I would love to do, that where I wish I was still, like an editor at Marvel, that I could say, okay, over here, this is where we do the
let's do this.
Spotify thing. Over here, here's where we do the thing where you do the wacky story no one would ever dare do about, Iron
Yes,
Man or whoever. So,
oh,
but
it's a nice idea. I will think about it.
yeah,
I'll send you a proposal. No, that's really great. Well,
I think we're
I'm
at an hour, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we already have 1 hour. I really thank you for your time, your amazing stories, your for sharing a little bit of what you are doing right now with the seeds.
Yeah, no, I hope
Maybe-
people like the seeds. I don't know that many people are buying it yet. So it's because it's an indie comic and it's strange. So I hope more people buy it, and I hope people like it. And you'll have to send me links to your music so I can listen to your music.
For sure, I will do that. So I want to invite everyone to well, let's finish with that, with the seeds. And
Yeah.
what is the best place that people can find it? Because when I was looking for it, for me the best the only place I found it was in Amazon.
Yeah, well, we all like to say Amazon is evil because they're taking over the world, and maybe they are evil, but it's only $13.99 for
Yes,
this fat, complex,
yes, it's a
deep.
trade paperback.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to first off say, please call your local comic shop, support your local
Yes,
comic shop. Call them, say, how come you're not carrying the seeds? Because a lot of places aren't carrying the seeds because they didn't order enough or something. And just say, order your copy through your comic book shop. So especially in this plague year, try to keep them alive. And the other wonderful thing about a comic shop is that you can't really go in a comic shop and leave with just one comic. So on your
yes,
way to buying the seeds, you will probably see 10 other great comics that you should be reading. And then if you can't get it in your comic shop, it is on Amazon for really deep discount. It's supposed to be $20 and it's only like 13 on Amazon. So
yes. No,
it's
it's
a
great.
bargain.
Yes. So we invite everyone to buy the seeds. Support your local comic book shop. It's important, especially these days. Comic books are great. And you have everything you want now. If you like superheroes, you have all the superheroes. If you want something different, you have that too. So everyone's happy. It should be happy.
Yeah, they should be happy. Yeah, everyone should be happy.
Yes. So, well, I really thank you for your time.
Thank
It was
you.
really nice talking to you. So maybe see you at the next time.
It was nice to virtually be in France for an hour.
Yes. No, that's cool.
Bye.
So, bye.
Bye-bye.